Hello and welcome to Nice and Blunt. It's Saturday and I'm kind of behind schedule, so I'm going to try and combine two videos into one. I'm going to give you the injury updates and all of my quarterback, tight end, and defense rankings for the week. I'm going to try and do this as quickly as possible. One take, let's try it. Let's go. Okay, so before I get into the rankings, I just want to bring up all of the players who have an injury designation who I expect to play tomorrow or Monday. I think Kyler Murray is going to suit up. I think Sammy Watkins is going to play, but I don't think Rashad Bateman will play. Cole Beasley, I think, will suit up. I also think Sam Darnold is going to play, but I'm not really interested in starting him. I think it's a bad matchup against the Patriots. And even if PJ Walker goes, I don't really want to start him either, even in a two quarterback format. So no go there. But Darnell Mooney, I also think will play. Same goes for Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb. I think they're both going to suit up with Dak. And Robert Woods will play, in my opinion. Same goes for Tua. Kenny Galladay looks like he's going to suit up, but outside the flex threshold for me. Deebo Samuel, I think, will play, but it's looking quite questionable. You definitely want to make sure, and if he doesn't, then Ayuk may have a boost, but I still think Deebo's going to play, so it's probably irrelevant for Ayuk. Elijah Mitchell, I also think is going to suit up, and A.J. Brown, I also expect to play, but it is worth checking the status because if they're added on Friday, that's not a good sign. But I think it's just a precautionary measure. I expect A.J. Brown to play. But let's get into these quarterback rankings because number one, I think it's an obvious pick. It's Josh Allen at Jacksonville. There's no way you're benching him. At number two, I got Lamar Jackson versus Minnesota coming off a bye. I think those rushing stats will be there this week, and he's also been throwing the ball really well. He's going to get Sammy Watkins back. I trust Lamar Jackson. I also love the matchup for Matthew Stafford, who has been cleared to play. It was a little bit iffy, but it looks like Matthew Stafford's good to go, so I think he's a top three option this week. And Kyler Murray, you still trust him, but it's a little bit questionable given his injury status. I don't think the rushing stats are really going to be there, but I think he's going to have a good connection with Christian Kirk, and I think he will pay off. It's pretty much impossible to bench Kyler Murray if he plays. At number five, though, I've got Patrick Mahomes versus Green Bay, and I think he will have a bounce back game, but he hasn't been really paying off this year, and it's a little bit risky, but I still trust him inside the top five. At number six, I really like Joe Burrow, who I expect to win this game against Cleveland. I think the reason that they lost last week was kind of because they were looking ahead and slept on the Jets while they were prepping for the Browns. So I think Joe Burrow is going to be ready to go and connect with not only Jamar Chase in this game, I think he's also going to have a decent connection with T. Higgins. And then number seven, I got Dak Prescott. I would have had Aaron Rodgers here at seven. However, obviously he's on the COVID list. So Dak Prescott is my number seven quarterback this week, who I expect to play. He's been cleared, and there doesn't look to be any concerns for him. This isn't the best matchup, but the Broncos trade away Von Miller, so it's definitely much easier than it was just a week ago. This red isn't really telling the whole picture. At number eight, my number one streamer this week, Tua Tagovailoa, who I think this game is basically for his job. He needs to beat the Houston Texans and Deshaun Watson's backup if he wants to avoid them trading him away or just, go into the draft for a replacement. I think there's legitimate concerns for Tua's job this week, and he's going to try and prove him wrong. I like this matchup. It looks good for Tua. At number nine, I got Jalen Hurts. I'm going to trust the rushing stats against a terrible defense against the run. They do have a great secondary, so I'm not expecting that many passing stats for Jalen Hurts, but I do think he will get it done with his legs. At number 10, I like Derek Carr in this matchup against the Giants. I think he's a good streaming option. I would have had Carson Wentz here at 11, but instead Justin Herbert comes into my top 12 at Philadelphia. I really don't like this matchup. Philly's secondary really scares me. And the time of possession for the Chargers has been shit this year. So Justin Herbert has the potential to put up 35 points, but it just hasn't really been a consistent thing this season. So I'm a little bit worried about it, and that's why he's outside my top 10. Baker Mayfield is my number 12 quarterback this week at Cincinnati, and he too is also kind of playing for his job. I'm not convinced that they beat the Bengals in this matchup, so I don't think the upside is really there, but I do think there's going to be a decent floor for Baker Mayfield, who plays better with Odell Beckham out of the lineup. Let's just be honest. At number 13, though, I got Teddy Bridgewater at Dallas, and I like this matchup. And he's going to be in catch-up mode. I like the game script, so Bridgewater is going to throw the ball a lot. And I love Jerry Jeudy. I think the connection is finally going to pay off this week. Number 14, though, I got Kirk Cousins at Baltimore. And at this point, you either got to be in a 2-quarterback league or a very deep format to consider playing these guys. But I think Kirk Cousins' floor is decent against Baltimore. But I don't really love the upside. I just don't trust Kirk Cousins that much. Mac Jones has a bad matchup on paper. However, he's been producing pretty well lately, and it's pretty rare that he turns the ball over. So I trust the floor with Mac Jones, and he is a pretty decent starter in every 2-quarterback format. Number 16, I'm interested in Trevor Siemian a little bit in 2-quarterback formats. Same goes for Jordan Love, because they both have good matchups against Atlanta and Kansas City, but it's hard to fully trust them, so that's why they're definitely outside the top 15. Daniel Jones, I just don't believe in the potential with all of his weapons out. It's another week for Saquon Barkley, going to miss the game, and with no Sterling Shepard, it's just quite risky with Daniel Jones, so I'd rather not. But in a 2-quarterback format, I get it. Ryan Tannehill and Matt Ryan are decent floor plays, but without Derrick Henry, I really don't love it. And without Calvin Ridley, there's definitely a lot of risk against this division rival. So some bad defensive matchups for these two, but they round out my top 20. And then players outside the top 20 who I think you would be asking to lose if you're going to play. But I'll list them. Ben Roethlisberger, Davis Mills, Jimmy Garoppolo, Sam Darnold, Trevor Lawrence, and Justin Fields round out my top 26. I had Mike White at number 24, and I had Carson Wentz at number 11 originally. But let's move on to tight end, because Travis Kelce remains at number 1 despite some down stats. The Chiefs are definitely not what they used to be, but I think Travis Kelce is still at the top of those tight end rankings. Barely behind him is Mark Andrews versus Minnesota for the Baltimore Ravens. And I think you can really trust Mark Andrews. He's really figured it out in the red zone after a few games not scoring. And I really think that he is locked in as a top 3 tight end the rest of the season. I think it's a great matchup for Darren Waller, who I think is fully healthy once again. And with no more Henry Ruggs, there's going to be a few more deep passes that are in the direction of Darren Waller. So I like him as a must-start tight end this week. And I love Mike Gesicki, who is getting a shit ton of volume, especially in games without Devontae Parker, and Devontae Parker is now on IR. So him and Jalen Waddle are the main benefactors, and I think the Dolphins are definitely going to win this game. So Gesicki, Gaskin, and Waddle are going to be key contributors for the Dolphins. I love Gesicki. I don't think you can bench him if you got him. At number 5, Dallas Goedert has a great matchup against the Chargers. And there's very few stats that matter when looking at opponents against tight ends, but the Chargers have been giving up a decent amount of touchdowns to the tight end position. So I like Dallas Goedert this week. I think he has a decent floor and some upside. George Kittle, Kyle Pitts, and Dalton Schultz actually have bad matchups in that regard. Very few touchdowns have been scored by the opponents for these tight ends, so that's why they're outside my top 5. But still can't really be too picky with tight ends, so that's why they're probably still starting options for you. Noah Fant comes in at number 9 at Dallas, and there's going to be some volume for Noah Fant, I expect, in this loss to the Cowboys. Same goes for Hunter Henry. He's been pretty consistent, although I do think the Patriots are going to win this game. I think you can trust Hunter Henry. And Zach Ertz is kind of interesting, although this is technically a bad matchup against San Francisco. You're really kind of just banking on the fact that AJ Green is out and DeAndre Hopkins is kind of limited. But if you're looking for a streamer at tight end and chasing the touchdown, Tyler Conklin and Jared Cook have good matchups, so there's a chance for them to boom this week. Tyler Higbee is a decent floor play. Not the worst bet you can make, but if you're really desperate, Mercedes Lewis and Evan Ingram have good matchups when it comes to defenses covering the tight end. But odds are you're probably not that desperate. So let's move on to defense. And my number 1 is obviously the Bills this week going up against Jacksonville. I also love the Steelers versus Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears. The Colts I had at number 3. It doesn't look like they're going to pay off for that ranking, but I can't blame you if you started them. They had a great matchup and were set up for success. So Unfortunately, kind of a floor game for them. But number 4, I got the Rams going up against Tennessee. And without Derrick Henry and with Von Miller added to the team, I think that they have a chance to boom. So I like them as a good starter this week. Same goes for the Saints in division matchup against Atlanta. There's no Calvin Ridley, so they will be able to focus on Kyle Pitts and Cordero Patterson. I like the Saints quite a bit. The Cardinals are interesting, but at this point it's pretty risky. Defenses can be tricky. The Patriots, though, they could be a really good start, even against Sam Darnold. They've made him see ghosts in the past, and if PJ Walker happens to be the starter, then the Patriots will have a great game as a fantasy defense. So I like them inside the top 10. Same goes for the Dolphins versus Houston. I trust this matchup because Houston's just pretty terrible. And then the Cowboys have a good defense, have been forcing turnovers this year against Denver, but there's a chance they give up a lot of points and yards in garbage time. So the Ravens are also inside the top 10, but the Bears, Bengals, Raiders, and Chargers and the Eagles round out my top 15. So that's going to wrap up this video. I tried to get it done as quickly as possible. Hopefully I didn't miss anything. If you got a question, go ahead and leave me a comment down below. I'll try and help you make those start-sit decisions as best I can. But if you'd like more content like this, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell for these videos to come to you. My name is Adam Riancho, and thank you for watching Nice and Blunt.